Hello again, everybody. I'm Dean O'Neill.
And I'm Nick Robinson.
Nick, we are on the fourth episode of On the Ground at the Border, and I need to explain a couple of things. On the Ground is a new series name that we've given, special series. Maybe things that you are doing outside of church,
places
that you
we've
like,
gone, things we've seen.
Yes.
How it informs our faith or our thinking about the world.
Gotcha. And this one is at the border.
That's correct.
So, this is day 4 for you. You were there for, it was 8 days, 2 days travel, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, but this was day 4 within everything. And the subject matter, I also need to give you a quick explanation and let everybody know that the subject matter today, you will find that it will be impossible for us to not talk about the policies because of what has happened to some certain individuals that you've met, and we'll get to that.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things too is like all of this is political, but that doesn't mean it has to be partisan.
Right.
So politics is all about our life together and the way that we choose to run that and how we interact with each other. Partisan is when you're kind of choosing a side and a party, perhaps,
Sure.
that you're going to defend no matter what. So this is it touches on the politics of our lives.
Sure.
For sure. Hopefully we successfully avoid being too partisan.
Right. I think you have done a great job on letting everybody know that this is something that you have seen and witnessed, and you're just telling people what you have seen and witnessed. Mm-hmm. So, on that note, what's in store for us today?
Well, let's revisit something that actually happened the day before this day on the trip.
Okay.
Our guides, our hosts, the Rueda family, told that they had heard about something called the Avocado Festival happening in Pharr, Texas, which is right next to McAllen. Maybe it took us 10 or 20 minutes, some short drive to get over there. And it was a street festival, and it was amazing. They had stages of musicians set up, people doing, musical acts. You could buy t-shirts that had avocados on them. There were pieces of artwork with avocado. There were light up avocados. There was street food. There was luchadores, so the Mexican style wrestling. There was a stage set up there, and there were people wrestling. And it was another place in the United States, in Texas, Pharr, Texas, and I think it was 99.9% Latino. And I went up and I ordered some food that night at Taco Burger Daniel. Okay. Which is kind of a funny name of a place. Right. But I got some street tacos, and I was a little nervous because they were calling out my number was like 34 or something, and they were calling out the numbers in Spanish, and I was like, uh-oh, am I going to be able to get my food? Am I going to recognize 34 in Spanish? Like if it was tres, I know I can count to 10 in Spanish, but I don't. Right. 34. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. But I did recognize it after trying to pay close attention to the numbers going on around me. And it was just so much fun. And it was just people, just walking around, having a great time, eating food and playing video games and dancing and just being together. And it was a really cool experience, cultural experience in Texas. And so if you're ever in Pharr, Texas in October and the Avocado Festival's going on, I recommend you go. If you are white, like I am white, you'll be one of the only people there.
All right.
Yeah, it was awesome.
You're the 1.1%, the 99.9.
Well, and if you have red hair, now that's another interesting thing from this trip is no one pointed out my red hair to me on this trip, and as I'm getting older, people say less to me about it. It's less red than it used to be, and there's a little bit more gray creeping in, but in lots of different places in the world, I've had people comment on my hair, whether it was England or Italy or Mexico. Right. People have routine, but on this trip, no comments. Okay, so the next day was Sunday, and the first thing we did was we all went to church somewhere. We went to visit the churches in our denominations largely. So I attended First United Methodist Church in McAllen, Texas. If you are familiar with United Methodism, there are lots of churches called First United Methodist, and this one happens to be the one in McAllen. It was a big, beautiful building with a big, beautiful sanctuary. And I think in the non-winter months, they have 200 or so people attending there. We showed up because I went with Allison, who's a United Methodist pastor, Allison Yankee, in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We're the two United Methodists who are part of this program together. So we went to church there. And outside their building, they have this beautiful garden, and it was full of butterflies. In McAllen, one of the things that they have is butterfly season. And the monarchs and different butterflies are just out in incredible numbers. And so we saw some of that natural beauty. And then as we got to church, we got a warm welcome. They did a good job welcoming us to church. It was interesting to be welcomed to a church. But two of them knew who we were before we even got there, the pastor and one of the staff people. And we went... we got welcomed. We went and sat down, and it was a multi-ethnic church. So there were people of all different skin tones, and I assume different language, first languages and things like that. But it was a diverse environment. But anybody from Asbury, especially if you attend the traditional service, would have been right at home in the order of worship. There was a baby baptized that morning, and it was beautiful and fun. And we sang like, "Come thou fount of every blessing," and "Be thou my vision," or something like classic Methodist hymns. There was a sermon on the parable of the sower. Maybe it wasn't the sower. It was on a parable. Maybe it was the sower. I can't remember exactly, but it was a pretty good sermon. And it made me think about things in a different way than I had before. And church ended, and at the end of church, we talked to somebody who was a retired federal defense attorney. And so she had been representing people against the United States for decades. And so she had, represented people, I assume, against during many administrations, different presidents.
Right.
And she was talking to us just about immigration. And one of the things she said is, it's all just a waste of money. All the efforts. That was her point of view of a defensive attorney.
Sure.
I just something I heard someone say, and so I offer it as part of this podcast.
Okay.
Neither endorsing nor disagreeing with her.
Right.
But just saying this is something that I have heard, that I heard someone say there from a United Methodist.
Sure.
And so we didn't talk to her too long, but that was kind of the takeaway comment that really stood out to me.
Did she talk about cases that she was on now?
No, she's retired. She didn't have any cases right now. She didn't bring any confidentiality.
She doesn't. Okay,
No.
Gotcha.
Which was interesting to hear from her, because one of the things that we were supposed to do on this trip was we were supposed to, on Monday, we were going to go to immigration court just to witness and just to see what it was like. But with the government shut down, that was no longer an option for us.
Right.
And so we talked to her very briefly, and then one of the most unique things happened to me. We, after church, as normal people do, we decided to go out to lunch. And so Allison and I asked somebody at the church. We had eaten a lot of Mexican food at this point. And we're like, let's eat something different. Let's eat some barbecue. Texas is famous for barbecue. Right. Let's go have some before we leave the state. And so we got the name of a place, and then someone who worked at the church drove us over there and dropped us off to eat because we were Ubering around.
And again, you're in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's super nice. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's just a nice area.
Sure.
Sure. You wouldn't. I don't think anybody would feel intimidated to walk around this. Anyone with my similar background would feel just fine walking around all these places. Went over to this restaurant, and the interesting thing that happened was that the waitress was so kind to us, so nice to us, and then she asked us how our meal was, and I was like, "Oh, it was so great! This is the first time I've had Texas barbecue. It was delicious." And she's like, "Oh, what brings you all to Texas?" And I'm like, "Oh, we're on a study tour. We're talking about immigration. We did these things, and we went over to Reynosa." And as soon as we told her that we had walked into Mexico, her tone absolutely shifted.
Really?
Now our waitress was Hispanic, Latina, something like that background, but she did not speak Spanish, only spoke English, and she went from being really nice to she dropped like 20 F-bombs in 30 seconds.
Really?
Yeah, like this huge change in perspective, she wasn't mean to us,
right?
But she was just immediately taken aback that we would do this thing, and she was just like, I don't mess with that stuff. I would never mess with that stuff. You know, people come in here and they talk to me and I don't speak Spanish and they tell me that I should be ashamed of who I am. And we're just like kind of in shock because we did not expect this turn of events. But it was just this visceral response. And on all of the tours that we had been on, no one had given us that glimpse of that response.
Sure.
Right. We had the defensive attorney who said, "Oh, it's a waste of money." We had ministers who were like, "Oh, we're trying to meet the needs." We had the boat driver who's like, "I give tours of this river and we have a bar in the back." Like, we had all these different perspectives, but that waitress just offered us this different perspective in a heartbeat. I'm still processing it.
It sounds like you didn't even really ask for it.
No. We were just thought we were being friendly, and well, she let us know her mind, and it was quite interesting and enlightening. And again, I don't offer any judgment on her response. I don't know if it was good or bad or what trauma it was born out of or any of those kinds of things. I just say it's something I saw. The whole point of this podcast, right, is something I saw while I was there. So after this we did one of the most interesting. So we Ubered back to the hotel and waited a little bit, and at like 2:00 that afternoon, we took the vans. We had 2 vans we were driving around in, and we went to a colonia. So a colonia, if you're in Indiana, you probably have never heard of a colonia unless you're a couple of people from our church who are Winter Texans or have been Winter Texans in the past. Colonias are little communities, sometimes in the city, sometimes out in the country, and they're little communities that have sometimes gravel roads, sometimes no water, sometimes no electricity, but they're impoverished places inhabited largely by immigrants of some sort. And they're just a place where if you are part of a church in McAllen, Texas that has resources, you're going to see colonias as a place where you might need to do ministry. You might need to take food. You might need to help work on houses, things like that. And so that afternoon we went to a colonia, and I think it was probably one of the nicer colonias. We went into a church that was in the colonia. There was a safe place for us to meet because we were going to meet some people that weren't sure about meeting with us because it felt risky to them to meet with us. But the colonia parts that we saw, there were houses, and we learned that a lot of times, you know, you take a weekend and you work on someone else's houses, and like you just kind of pass that favor on, right? Like you work on someone's house, and eventually it's gonna be their turn to work on your house and to put electricity in or running water or, you know, whatever. Sure. So we went into this church and we met with 2 different families.
Okay.
One of these families was a man who was a worker. He undocumented, but he'd been living in the United States for a while. I can't recall how long, but a long time.
Still undocumented.
Okay. And so he was telling us how his working life was affected by some of the changes in policies and treatments. And the other person that we talked with, we were meeting with her part of her family, because she had been recently detained by ICE, and she had spent 29 days in 2 different detainment facilities, 5 in one and 24 days in another detainment facility.
All right, let's talk about the gentleman first.
Yeah, let's talk about. So he'd been living in the United States for a while, and construction worker,
right?
Those kinds of labor jobs. One of the jobs he at least used to do was replacing windshields on cars,
right?
Because he said, you know, before things changed, he would replace windshields on Border Patrol cars, and no big deal. He's like, everybody knows that this is a kind of a gray economy where some people are documented, some people aren't. We don't ask questions. They're doing a job that we need done. We're paying them to do it. And so he would, you know, be up front and center with Border Patrol people replacing windshields. Now, his brother is somehow involved in this, and his brother calls him and says, "Oh, got a job over here for you to do." And now he's afraid to go to work because he spends a lot of time, like when he's gone to work, you know, ICE shows up and they've been running and hiding and they can't get their work done and they're afraid of being detained and all of the consequences of that. You know, and hearing this, some people are going to be like, good, that if you're undocumented, you're not legally allowed to work in the country, and that's how it should be. And some people are like, oh gosh, he's providing for his family. And what was really heart-wrenching to me, his 8-year-old daughter
was
sitting right next to him.
It's tough.
Well, and I have an 8-year-old daughter.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And so she was born in the United States, and she was like comforting her dad as he's like struggling with his inability to provide for his family because of this.
She doesn't know anything better. I mean, you know what he's going through, and
Well, and like he said that he had been deported once before decades ago when he just came back, and he was a young single man, and he wasn't worried about it. Now he's married and he has a kid.
Right.
It's like, if I get sent back somewhere, like what happens to my family?
so even go deeper dive. The wife is
I believe she's
documented.
she's legal. She speaks English. Like if she spoke English to you, you would like, no accent or anything.
Sure.
But she also speaks fluent Spanish.
Right.
And he only spoke Spanish, so he spoke to us through an interpreter. And then the daughter, I think, speaks English and Spanish. She did not talk a lot, which you can imagine an 8-year-old in a circle of 20 people, most of which are pastors. You know, you may not talk a lot.
Right.
And so he was one of the themes of this trip that really surprised me was the number of people who cried when we showed up. People who were people of power cried when we showed up. People who were had been living in the United States their whole life and were American citizens their whole life, and their parents were American citizens, but who have been trying to serve the Rio Grande Valley and immigrants and people there, like they were surprised that people cared enough to show up, to come hear their story. Because one of the themes of this area, as nice as I experienced it to be, is that people don't care about it. No one ever goes there. No one cares about what's happening there. Unless it's for in the political tug of war of trying to tell your story to get your votes or whatever, people just don't care about it. And so the people doing good work, the ones whose stories were complicated and challenging, people just kind of cried over and over again that anyone would show up and care about them from outside this area. And again, that to me, that illustrates like the importance and the power of showing up in places.
Sure.
And so he didn't have any, we kind of asked him like, oh, what do you want to see happen? He he kind of wanted to go back to the way things were, like where he could work and support his family and keep doing that. Now the other person, she was detained by ICE, and it's because the policies changed on her. So she was in the United States, documented in the United States, because she had a domestic violence story in her background. So she was in the United States.
She was a victim?
Victim, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So she was in the United States for safety.
Right.
And she had like 7 daughters or something.
Right.
Largely grown up daughters at this point. And she was here legally, but in everything that's going on, the laws changed. They decided, that kind of visa we're not going to recognize anymore. And she didn't know that. So she tried to travel from this area to San Antonio to do something, like go shopping for like something.
Sure.
And they have to go through the checkpoint. You had to go to. We went through the checkpoint to get to San Antonio, and so her visa was no longer valid, and so they detained her right there. And she had some of her kids with her, so someone had to come get her kids and take them somewhere. And then she was in that facility, like somewhere near there, I think, for 5 days, and then moved somewhere else for 24 days. And so by the time we talked to her, what she had was a court date at some point in the future to determine her future.
Gotcha.
If what was going to happen to her, if she can be deported or what. But she found that when she was in detention, she got different treatment from the people working there. She had said there was one person who was like, "You have no hope, just give up. Even God can't help you here." And then there was another person who's like, "Oh, you got to pray to God. God can help you. Like maybe no one else can, but God can help you right now." And she was talking to the other people that were in the detention. There were like 100 women in this detention area, and I don't know. That's all I really know.
Right.
We didn't have pictures, right?
Sure.
We didn't have maps. We didn't have any of that kind of stuff. But she found that a lot of these women that were there were worse off than her.
Sure. And I'm sure that it was, what I think sometimes what people don't understand is, and it's wrong. I think it's wrong, but here we go. But some of the detainees had kids and they'd split them up. And the reason why they split them up is so the people know that are coming in illegally know that they're going to split. This is the only deterrent they have.
Yeah.
And so that hopefully they say, well, I don't want my kids split up, so we're not coming. But people did.
And so, and her kids are largely adults. So a lot of these parents, these moms in this detention center, you know, who's watching their kids, who's providing for their kids, what's going to happen. At least one of the women there was Chinese, so there was at least some diversity in background, where she considered herself better off because her kids were older, they had jobs, they could provide for each other, they could take care of each other, they could take care of whatever thing she couldn't take care of while she was in detention for 29 days. And eventually she saw a judge and was able to be free on bond or whatever.
Own recognizance or whatever,
Yeah. And, you know, she found that in this place of desperation, she started ministering to other people because that's who she was outside of detention. And she was a strong leader, looked to by others to provide leadership in all kinds of ways in her church community, in the place she was living. She was a matriarch, and she not real old, but a matriarch and a leader in her community. And one of the people that had worked with her that was a pastor in this, or a ministering some way in this area. So, you know, it's changed her. You know, nothing slowed her down before, and she was always a go-getter. And now you can tell there's a little bit more
hesitance, or at least, hey, let's think this through type of thing. Yeah. So obviously we want to know where she's at and what's going on and what you know of her and finishing her story. But one I want to bring up is the two instances that you've just brought up, that the gentleman who is undocumented, and we feel like he's still undocumented, right? Okay. And then this woman who's been detained. The one thing that I see in this whole situation with ICE and illegal immigration and everything is they've gotten rid of the gray area. They just really have.
Well, and part of that is, like, you hear people talk about down there that there's a quota. You have to. They're trying to arrest so many people per day, and that has really changed and driven their approach to how they treat people and how aggressive they are in going after people. And you know, both of these people are undocumented immigrants, but some of the people getting swept up in this have been racially profiled and like, oh, you look Hispanic, even though you're a citizen, and so now you're in detention too.
And let's go here in an area that neither one of us know about. But you have an ICE agent. I've never seen an ICE agent in my life. I mean, up close and doing his job or anything like that. I've seen it on the news and everything like that. But let's take the ICE agent to the place with the gentleman that is not documented. All right. I mean, yes, he's got a family and he's trying to do things, but do we know the ICE agent? He is ordered to do this. Yeah, don't give anybody any breaks. You're ordered to do this. That's got to be tough on the ICE agent.
I imagine at least on some significant subset, there might be some people who enjoy it, but I'm sure there's some that are heartbroken over it, and a range in between. I was talking to someone, the people from church who were Winter Texans, and they're like, years ago, Border Patrol and ICE are different people.
Sure.
But Border Patrol would, like, if you had a parade, Border Patrol would be out waving and they'd be so nice to everybody. And now, I mean, people, and even now, I think down in that area, like, Border Patrol has a different reputation than ICE.
Right.
And again, I'm just naming what I saw and what I heard. I'm not making I'm trying to offer this without judgment or conclusion even.
Right.
But there's real fear of ICE.
No, I'm sure there is. I mean, we just that's a whole different show. So anyway, but at least the one thing that you saw that we can see that you saw was there's just no gray area in this matter anymore. It seems like, or the gray area is very, very slight.
Yeah. One of the really interesting things that happened is as these two families, I don't think knew each other, or they didn't know each other's story, because to talk about this kind of stuff, to talk about your fear, or to talk about that you've been detained by ICE, carries a real weight of shame in the community. just like, people at Asbury don't always go about broadcasting their challenges in life with each other or their sicknesses in life or things like that. These two didn't know their struggles. And so they started connecting over this and like, oh, tell me about this. Or did this happen? Did this happen? And they started having side conversations in Spanish where they were figuring out, they were learning from each other about what this meant and what it might mean for their families and their communities and how it really went. Because some of what they're hearing too is rumors versus what's true or what people are really experiencing. And so it was by us showing up, they were able to make a connection there with each other that I think was powerful to watch.
I'm sure it was. And for them to go on daily looking over their shoulder, but because that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to worry about that. We've done nothing wrong in our communities to where we have to look over our shoulder every day or be whatever.
Yeah, well, and there's some sense that some people having to look over their shoulders haven't done anything wrong.
Exactly.
Either.
That's my point.
Right. Like
that's my point. Yeah.
But that fear is real in a lot of places there and probably here too. One of the things that we were supposed to do was meet with students from the Baptist Student Ministry on one of our days. And we didn't do that because the students weren't sure about meeting with a bunch of strangers in this kind of political climate where their documentation status might be whatever it is. And they don't know who we are. And so why are they going to welcome us in and trust us, not knowing if we're there to turn them in or to do something wrong towards them. It's I'm on the very edge of being affected by any of this.
Sure.
But to see that and to know that just tells me more about how deep some of these things that are happening are.
Right. So let's talk a little bit more about the woman. I kind of stopped you not midway, but so she is currently still needs to go up against the judge. Is there a possibility that she could be deported again?
I believe so.
Right.
She is not. Well, I don't know if she's been deported, but she had not told us. The husband or the man in the other family was the one that had been deported once. I don't know her story to know if she had been, but yeah, that'd be a real chance for her.
I mean, what else would she have to go to? I mean, if she's, I don't know. Is this other documentation? Is it? Are they going to take it now? I mean, who knows? So.
Yeah. And that's a real challenge. It's like, well, I thought I was here legally. I thought I had all of these abilities. I thought I was doing things the right way, and suddenly now I'm not.
Right.
And not because I've done something wrong, but because the rules have changed on me. And I was unaware that the rules were changing. And, we can talk about like whose job is it to know the rules? Whose job is it to inform people of the rules? How does that mechanism happen? Do you find that on the news? If you're a is that something that an attorney should be telling you or a law enforcement agency should be telling you? I have no idea how all of that quote unquote should work.
Sure.
I just can say what happened to this person in this instance.
Well, and it's not like they were looking for this woman because she got caught up in a what is it? What would you call it?
Cartel?
No. She got no. She was at a stop. She was.
Oh yeah.
She was just stopping. Then they were searching and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, she was going through this checkpoint. Thinking she was all fine because she's.
And how many times has she done it before?
Right. And so she, in her mind, she's doing everything right. And in a few days, we'll touch on that subject. In a few episodes, we'll talk about that subject some more because we talked to a Mennonite pastor that had this kind of description of reality and people's adherence to the law that I think is really interesting for us to think about. And that will be here's a teaser a few episodes from now.
Sure. Well, hey, I think this is a good place to stop. I think it's amazing. Yeah. I think the one thing we found out today, or at least I found out, that down in that area there are no gray areas. I mean, if you're looking over your shoulder, that's just the way it is.
And it was the gray area before,
right?
And that's I think one of the challenges for people there is as they navigate these challenges. It's just very personal.
Sure.
And we ask her, what are your hopes? Sure. And she's like, oh, I hope, the president changes his mind and they enforce these rules differently than they are now. Because these are people who want to follow the rules.
Right. And again, I wish that, or I don't wish, but I mean, it's too bad that you weren't able to talk to an ICE agent. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's not what you were there for, but anyway.
No, it would be. It was what we were there
yeah.
for. I wish we could have.
I would love to have heard the side of an ICE agent that would have to take away a man from his family.
Now, so I was saving this for another episode. But I think I want to talk about it right now, if that's okay.
Sure.
We got a couple minutes.
Sure,
a couple
sure.
minutes.
We're good.
Because I think it.
Or touch on it and we'll come visit it back.
I think this speaks to what some people might be feeling, because we have rules. Following the rules are important. That's stuff. What about dangerous people? Things like that. So there was another pastor there who one of his friends was texting him like, what about borders? Like, you don't let people just walk into your house and take whatever they want. You lock your doors and things like that. And so our country needs to have, secure borders and things like. And the pastor who had gotten this text from another friend asked that of Sister Norma. Sister Norma, we visited her place of ministry later on, but she said, yes, we do need secure borders. Like, she is a nun who has helped countless immigrants in their journey into America, feeding them, all kinds of stuff. Like, has met presidents and popes and things like that. Like, her presence has been specifically requested by presidents. Like, she was invited to an event, wasn't going to go, and she got a phone call from the president's office like, hey, we see that you're not planning on being there. The president would really like for you to be there. So
wow.
Right? Like, so she's this known commodity. And so she's like, yes, we do need secure borders to protect people in the United States and to protect the immigrants that come in and other vulnerable people.
Right.
We secure borders are really important. The question, and she didn't say, this is me saying, not her saying, but the question is, what does that look like? How do you do it? How do you keep the criminal element, the truly criminal element out?
Sure.
While providing something like, I don't know.
Right.
There's a lot going on there. And so I just wanted to offer that kind of
Yes.
law and order, because there's these, for me, the stories of these two people are very moving. And I can hear someone else saying, yeah, but what about these things? And so I wanted to offer that Sister Norma's perspective.
Sure.
Because I think they balance each other out. So.
And we'll hear more about Sister Norma.
We will, and her ministry later.
Perfect. Well, hey, I think this is a good place to stop. Very compelling today, I believe. Yeah. Please lead us in prayer, and then we'll one thing I want to let everybody know is we're doing these in this podcast, which they're called pods. We're doing 4 pods, and then we're going to do 4 more pods. So I'm not sure yet whether I'm just going to let all of them go up and everybody binge them, or we put them out on a week. I'll decide that and let you guys know.
Sounds good. Let's pray.
Sure.
God, we thank you for people who make a difference. Those who are leaders in their community, those who work hard to provide for their families. We pray that you would be with these 2 individuals that we've talked about today and their stories, and that you would also help give us clarity on what truth with justice looks like, what peace with justice looks like, what policies, and I don't know what they are, God, but policies that give life and protect life. And so, God, we pray that you would intervene and create us into a group of people that are willing to work together to work towards solutions rather than attacking each other. And so we pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
For Nick Robinson, I'm Dean O'Neill, and you've been on the ground at the border.